Hello everybody. What I say in the title is true. I did buy my first vehicular. You want to see it? Alright, you convinced me. I'll show it to you. It's underneath a bunch of snow right now, but I'll show it to you anyways. So there she is. A 97 Acura 3.5 RL. Boom, baby. There she is. So, before I can start driving it and driving it everywhere, I have to think about what are some of the costs that are associated, the fun part, right? And since this is a financial channel, I figured why not? Let's break it down. For some of the people who are buying their first vehicles, thinking about it, or have bought their first vehicle like me, this is a video for you guys. Or if you're just curious about, what are some of the costs that are associated with vehicle ownership. And I'm going to break it down. It's about 5 things, major categories, and I just want to talk about that. So number 1, obviously what you pay for the vehicle. So, I paid about $800 for that car. It was a good deal off of my friend. But most people pay a lot more for their vehicle, for their first vehicle, or for any vehicle for that matter. The average used price for a vehicle was about $19,000 in Canada last year. So you have to factor in one important part is whatever you're paying in interest on your loan if you have to finance the vehicle. So that's one important part. Also, if you lease the vehicle, but that would be a whole different video altogether. So there's that. Then you have to factor in depreciation on the vehicle as well. So the depreciation would be the difference between whatever you paid for it and then hopefully whatever you sell it for whenever you're done using it, or if you drive it to the junkyard and get $300 for it, or if you get nothing for it, the depreciation would be basically whatever you paid for it versus whatever you get for it or whatever happens to it. So that's a major cost. That's obviously the first thing people think about, and that is the first most important thing probably. So, but also there's recurring costs. So the biggest one being the second category, which would be insurance costs. So in Ontario, we have very high insurance costs. It costs the average person about $2,000 a year to insure their vehicles. And for example, for me, I'm a 23-year-old male without a driving history in Ontario. So I got a quote and it would be about $3,200 for me. And that's not even counting if anything happens with my insurance. So say I get a speeding ticket, or if I get, if I get into a minor accident. Usually a claim of $2,000 or more will increase your insurance by 41%. What does 41% mean for me? It means the difference between $3,200 a year and $4,500 a year. $1,300 more dollars, or basically $100 more per month. So even if something minor happens, right, or a ticket or something happens. So that's really important to factor in, especially for people getting their new vehicles. Think about that. Number 3, gas, paying for gasoline. So if you're somebody who doesn't really drive that much, you could just use it on the weekends or whatever, or, something small, then you're probably only going to be paying about $500 a year, give or take. And then if you're somebody who drives a lot, you drive like 30,000 kilometers a year, you're probably going to end up paying like $2,000 a year. And it's important to factor in what kind of gasoline your car takes. For example, my Acura RL takes premium gas only. You can put normal gas in the tank, but it's probably not very good for it. So I'm probably going to have to pay I will have to pay an extra 20 cents per liter for premium gas. So I have to factor that into my budget. Number 4 is maintenance. So there's routine maintenance, which for the average person will cost about $600 a year or $50 a month, which includes your things like your oil changes, windshield wipers, alignment on your vehicle, routine, everything to keep your car running smoothly, or preventative maintenance, you could call it as well. And then you're having things that if you have anything major break, that would be like, something big that you would have to do maintenance on. So it's good to have $2,000 or $3,000 set aside in case anything major breaks, like you blow a head gasket, or a piston goes off the rod or whatever it is. You have to account for that, even if it's a new vehicle, because I've heard of people buying like 2016 Cadillacs, for example, and something blows in the engine, right? And you still have to pay like $3,000 even though you bought it like a year ago. So always remember that. Also, a thing I forgot to mention about depreciation is that major depreciation happens the first 2 years, and especially when you drive it off the lot. So keep that in mind. Depreciation happens the most at the beginning of the vehicle's life. So that's why it's good to buy, if you're going to buy a used vehicle, try to buy it after the first 2 years. Those are really where the depreciation happens. And then the fifth category, I couldn't really put it into a category, so I just called it other or ancillary fees, which include things like parking tickets or parking if you work somewhere and you have to pay for parking, or if you have to park at home and you live in an apartment and you have to pay for that, or license plates. And in Ontario we have license plates where you have to get stickers, and you have to pay $120 a year for that, which is kind of like, why? It's just like an added thing, so it's expensive, right? CAA or AAA memberships. If you get towed, for example, in Ontario, if you get towed, it costs you like $300. If you have CAA, obviously it covers that, but you have to be mindful of all these ancillary costs, which I factored into be about $1,000 per year. So that being said, when I calculated everything for me, being a young driver and everything, my insurance costs being so high, it's going to cost me about $8,000 per year to own a vehicle. And that's about what the average is. I mean, depending where you live in Canada or wherever you live in the world. I mean, if your insurance costs are a lot lower, then you're obviously going to be paying a lot lower because it's a major cost. But still, car ownership, they depreciate in value. You have to pay insurance, you have to pay gas, you have to pay these ancillary fees, you have to pay for these maintenances. So they're going to be a major drain on your finances. And if you're someone like me who's trying to get out of debt, trying to move forward, it's difficult. And so it's just important to be mindful that you have to budget a lot more than just what you paid for the vehicle when you're budgeting and you have a vehicle. Okay, thank you so much, guys, for listening. I hope that you found at least 2 or 3 things that are going to help you budget for your vehicle, or if you're thinking about budgeting, I hope that this is helpful for you. Merci tout le monde. J'apprécie tout ça. Okay? I love you guys. Thank you so much. Bisous, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye now.